What do we think would be an appropriate intro for this thing? I don't know if I love "What's up, apes." What's going on, apes? You know what I mean? Hey, what's up, apes? Hey, what's going on? Hey, apes.
Hi,
Oh,
apes.
hey. What are you doing in the back corner of that room?
I didn't see you there,
Apes?
apes.
Apes, is that you? Oh my god, apes, we grew up together. You were best man at my wedding. You were at my daughter's quinceanera. No, see, that's too. Now I've gotten too familiar. Hey, apes, check this shit out. We watched a movie.
I like that.
Too casual. That feels too
That feels
casual,
too
though.
casual, though. What's up, simians?
I don't like that. Simians? You're bringing simians into this?
Isn't that like another term for ape?
Hey, what's up, apes? It's Jack and Jameson. We're talking about another Star Wars, the third one, chronologically, or the sixth one, production wise. That's Revenge of the Sith, baby, the best one. DM. One of the best ones.
It's a good one.
George Lucas is a master of what I like to call the hot open, because we're never going back to the start of the story. He likes to start in the middle, but in my opinion, the
Yeah,
premise of a cold open is that you start in the middle and then go back to the beginning. And George ain't never go back to the beginning.
he ain't never going back to the beginning.
That motherfucker ain't ever going back to the beginning. He's starting you in the goddamn middle, and you have to figure it out. So I think you wouldn't have been like confused because it's still like a work of
Well,
narrative
one
and
of
it
my
follows
notes.
certain things. But I do feel like you would be somewhat
Mhm.
lost of what the fuck is happening
Yeah,
if you didn't read the crawl for this one.
yeah.
You'd be really fucking confused about the intricacies of what's going on here.
All right. So here's the opening crawl. War. The Republic is crumbling under attacks by the ruthless Sith Lord Count Dooku. There are heroes on both sides. Evil is
Just throw it
everywhere.
away. Just throw it away. Give it less. Just throw this
Give
one
it.
away. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. In a stunning move, the fiendish droid leader,
Okay,
General
now see that you
Grievous,
slipped too far into apathy there. So I need you to split the difference. You were too
has
you were too
swept.
broad with the first one. So I'm telling you to,
Too broad
just
with the
throw it away.
first one.
Look down the barrel and then throw it away.
I'm throwing
Here
it
we go.
away. All
And
right.
here we go. Take two.
In a stunning move, the fiendish droid leader, General Grievous, has swept into the Republic capital and kidnapped Chancellor Palpatine, leader of the Galactic Senate. As the separatist droid army attempts to flee the besieged capital with their valuable hostage, two Jedi Knights lead a desperate mission to rescue the captive
One
Chancellor.
Jedi Knight and one Master, but that's fine. George is bad at that part.
Yeah.
George is bad at remembering how many guys he's sent and what their ranks are. I like this one, and honestly, I controversially, because a lot of people like to say he's shit, and I already made this point in Phantom Menace, but I'll make it again. I think George Lucas is a good director,
Yeah,
and people are stupid.
I think he's got a good skill when it comes to directing.
I'll say something controversial. I also kind of like his weird ass dialogue. There's a line right at the beginning of the film where Palpatine is trying to convince Anakin to leave Obi-Wan behind and just save them and get him out of there. And Anakin says his fate will be the same as ours, which is an objectively on the page that's a weird line, but I really dig George Lucas's weird ass Shakespearean bullshit.
Yeah, there that was I liked that line, yeah. I noticed
That's not all encompassing. I'm not including the sand line, which we will. I'm sure, surely we will have talked about it in Attack of the Clones. I Never mind. I'll leave that for that discussion. But yeah, that not including that whole scene, I actually quite like his weird, awkward ass dialogue. He manages to cram a lot of shit in to like just a really weird, quick line of awkward, clunky dialogue that actually communicates a lot.
yeah, it's surprisingly effective.
It's surprisingly if like efficient what's what we're looking for here, exposition he can fit into a shitty line of dialogue.
Yeah. Well, in this movie, I noticed a lot fewer lines that I was just like, ooh, I did not like that line.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like the height of, this is the climax of the drama, really. If you look at the three films as a three act piece of work. I know each thing is basically a three-act piece of work, but you condense it to its themes and suddenly you've got a three-act play with the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, and this is the climax. So
Yeah.
I think all of his like very enthusiastic Shakespearean lines find their place here because this is the thematic climax of the whole deal. feels like it should be Shakespearean in a way.
Yeah, there is a huge DNA of the Shakespearean tragedy in the
Oh, for
the
sure. The
prequels.
tragedy
Yeah,
aspect of it, in addition to just like I'm more mean in the way that his dialogue is clunky because it's archaic. He's
yeah,
saying like he uses very like archaic verbs that sound out of place when said by a modern actor, but like it makes perfect sense in Star Wars because it's a space opera.
yeah. It's like the fantastical setting.
Yeah. So it opens up with that the big space battle over Coruscant, which is one of the better extended CGI segments in the film, I would say.
Oh yeah,
Perhaps the best. And it's like it's kind of interesting in the sense that it's actually some of the smaller CGI snafus that I think don't pass the smell test, but then like long extended segments of CGI that look perfectly natural for the
yeah.
setting.
It's probably where like a lot of the budget went was that scene, that
Yeah.
sequence.
The budget feels pretty evenly spread out, but yeah, I think it's more of a limitation of the 2005 when this movie came out
Yeah,
CGI than
ways
because
it
I
was.
would the budget was spread out and practically unlimited for this film is my
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. You're not wrong. I mean, in a lot of ways too, it's like modern CG is just way lazier.
Yeah,
There was only one moment that I was like, "Oh, that's just bad CG," and it wasn't even the CG; it was the physics of the CG.
there's a couple. If you're talking about when Dooku ragdolls Obi-Wan against the railing, that's definitely the big one
Yeah, that one's
for
that
me.
one's pretty egregious,
That's
but
rough.
that's not the one I'm referring to.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Go on then.
it's when Obi-Wan is, I believe he's chasing after Grievous on Utapau.
Okay.
And you see a vehicle explode, and it just does not bounce right. It feels like it
Hmm.
comes down too fast.
Sure.
It was just like, oh, those physics did not look real. But also, it's physics in a sci-fi like space setting, so who really gives a fuck? I mean, the rest of it was like serviceable enough that I just didn't notice.
Shockingly well. Yeah. I mean, again, a bit. I would assume this film had practically unlimited
Yeah,
budget, but the CGI holds up surprisingly well.
yeah, oh yeah. And I mean, for such a special effects heavy movie, that's
It's like 99% special effects. The green screen, I will say, does fail a little bit more often, I would say, than just the overall like full CGI shots or shots with like large CGI elements in them.
yeah,
But it's way less egregious in this one than it is in Attack of the Clones. So all right, so this is the grand climax of Palpatine's plan to take over the galaxy. And can I just say, watching this film in 2025 is, as an American, is
yep.
harrowing. It's it's some pretty unfortunate, deep emotional notes for me that I made me feel quite uncomfortable. You
Yeah.
don't really like to see when, which like it makes sense. The empire has always been the United States, so like it's not like this is an unfair comparison to make. It wouldn't have been an unfair comparison to make to the Reagan years either. But I just feel like it's gotten so much worse since the Reagan years
Oh
that
yeah.
it really hit a new high this year. I think watch it with that film. But anyway, this is like Palpatine has spent decades planning this whole thing, and it almost all goes to shit in a fucking elevator
Yeah.
because he for some reason decided he should be the hostage in a classic Obi-Wan and Anakin adventure, which is what this little self-contained beginning part with the invisible hand. I'm going to talk about this in Attack of the Clones. There's such a thing as like the classic Obi-Wan and Anakin adventure. When you read the books, you get a sense for what that is, and Attack of the Clones is one of those. And this opening part of Revenge of the Sith is just a classic Obi-Wan and Anakin snafu of every possible thing going horrifically awry.
Yeah.
So Palpatine's whole plan almost comes to nothing in an elevator because of Anakin being a fucking insane whack job.
Yeah, that dude
You know what
is.
I'm talking about? Where he's carrying Obi-Wan and then they start like fucking sliding
Yeah.
down. You can also see it when Anakin's crash landing the plane. Palpatine's like, my whole fucking
My
if
plan
he
will
does this wrong, my whole plan to take over the entire galaxy that I've been planning for decades is going to completely fall apart and I'm going to die
There's
here.
like a moment where he looks at Anakin going like, "This
He
is
looks at
it."
R2.
He looks at R2
It's
and
really
he's like, "This
funny.
is it.
He locks eyes with
He's
R2.
like, I'm fucked with this. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna."
So there's like a lot of here's the thing. I am drawing from when I make a complaint, I'm drawing from several things. I'm either drawing from the books I read as a child that are a half remembered dream that I'm surely not going to get the details of, but I have a distinct emotional memory of these books and the vibes they gave
Yeah.
me, right? I've got sense impressions of these books that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And then there's another dynamic of the 2008 Clone Wars series, which I don't despise it. It's a well-made series, but what it does to canon is truly unconscionable. And the third is Reddit forums. God help me, like reading people's takes in Reddit forums. So that's where all of like any comment I make that's a refutation or a complaint, it's one of those things that I'm referencing. So there's a lot of hay made about Palpatine's grand plan to take over the universe and how he's such a like magnificent bastard planner who like put all this together and executed it to perfection. And there's a lot of glazing about like, oh, he's the most powerful Sith of all time, whatever. He didn't even really need Anakin. Turning Anakin was just a bonus. It wasn't part of his plan. I think there are several points in this movie where it's very obvious that Palpatine's entire plan hinged on turning Anakin to the dark side. Like that was a very crucial component of his plan. It wasn't just a fun bonus on top of taking over the galaxy.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, especially going back to.
Sorry, I know that was a long monologue.
Especially going back all the way to Phantom Menace, you can see how he's been planning it that way since he was a kid, literally.
Well, I don't think he does groom Anakin as a child, but I don't think Anakin was yet part of the plan as of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
There's a recent book that came out about Darth Plagueis, and it is kind of retcon things so that Darth Plagueis is still alive at the beginning of Phantom Menace. So when Palpatine's talking about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, new canon would have us believe that happened basically immediately after the end of the Phantom Menace, which I don't like that retcon personally.
Okay, interesting.
I think it makes more sense if Darth Plagueis is like a guy who died almost in the misty past of Palpatine's like life.
So,
but that's not the case in new canon.
Well,
sorry, I
you're
dragged us off track.
No, you're good. I mean, speaking of when he's telling him the story of Plagueis the Wise, forgive my Star Wars ignorance, but he was Plagueis's apprentice, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Because the dialogue does a really good job of the dialogue and his facial expressions when he's telling the story does a really good job of implying that that's the case.
I think it's textually pretty obvious, but I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But I do think it's not like a blink and you can miss it detail. I think it's pretty obvious that he even wanted Anakin to draw the conclusion that it might be him. I'm like, that's the intent of the whole monologue, in my opinion.
Definitely, that was definitely the vibe I was getting.
But I'm not trying to say that as like a refutation to what you said. I'm trying to just like expand on it with my own thoughts.
No, I get you.
That's me agreeing with you. I'm on your side.
Yeah, no, I get you. Well, and that whole scene was pretty effective at establishing Anakin's like fears and motives throughout the rest of the film.
Yes. Okay, so here's something that's kind of important from the novelization of Revenge of the Sith. This film takes place over the course of a few weeks to a few months. And that is in no way textually evident in the film.
Yeah, aside from Padme going from no stomach to yes stomach.
Well, not no, but yeah, I do agree that I think there is some consistency in that regard, that she does get visibly much more pregnant during the latter half of the film. But beyond that, there's not like a lot to back that up textually, but I can tell from reading the novelization and then watching the film that it's pretty obviously the intent, that it takes place over a longer period than is presented. Like, if you just kind of watch it as presented, I wouldn't fault somebody for believing it took place over like 3 days.
Yeah.
but it's supposed to be, you know, a few weeks to a few months, which it's like it changes some things, but the real important part of that is I think it helps explain Anakin's fall because it feels very abrupt if you're not aware that this whole thing is taking place
over a rather
over an
long,
extended
yeah.
period.
He has weeks, I'm assuming, of the same nightmares, the premonitions that he
He
gets
basically does not sleep after the oh god,
after the invisible hand.
after the battle on the invisible hand until after the like events of the film are over. He is sleep deprived and like running on basically adrenaline for the whole film, for almost all of the events of the film, which is like supposed to somewhat inform our understanding of what he's going through emotionally.
Yeah.
The other thing, I suppose, unless you had a topic you wanted to talk about, I know I keep hijacking where you're taking us to insert more context from either the book or, you know, whatever.
No, I especially would like the book context added because
it's really good. You should read it. It's just so good to like get people's inner thoughts and point of view throughout the events. I think it really helps the narrative in a way that can't really be presented in a movie because we don't really hear people's internal thoughts.
Yeah.
Unless it's done in a very cheesy way that wouldn't fit the genre.
Yeah.
Like they tried to do in the original Dune film.
The spice. Yeah.
If you remember that, like half that movie is supposed to be like him thinking to himself. Yep. So Anakin's fall, obviously this is like the most crucial character journey of the film. And I don't know about you, but even now, 20 years after this movie came out, I still find myself hoping that he doesn't, by the end of the film, that he like realizes he's being played by Palpatine.
I completely agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a general sense, I quite like Anakin like as a character initially because like again as I said in Phantom Menace, he's a morally good person.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting, because you don't see it for very much of the film, it's basically only right at the beginning and some of the like calmer moments where he's more emotionally centered, but the Anakin of Revenge of the Sith is definitely a much more mature Anakin than is in Attack of the Clones.
Big time.
And I was not I did not remember that character development having taken place, and it's not super obvious because again it doesn't stick around. It's basically only really noticeable during those like more emotionally calm moments for Anakin, but he has genuinely become a much more like well-measured and wise person. He just has all of his fears are basically coming to a head.
Yeah.
During the worst month of his life, essentially.
Because he has that scene where he apologizes for his arrogance and not like in taking teachings for granted.
And it's very clearly like a genuine moment for the character. Like it isn't like, oh, he's just buttering up Obi-Wan for, you know, whatever.
Yeah, no,
reason,
he's basically trying to he's
genuine.
Like extending out his last feelers towards staying good.
Yeah. I think there are a few moments. His desperate cries for help and like his final reach out moment.
Yeah.
He has one with almost all of the big main Jedi characters. And this is a scene that's more fleshed out in the book, but is definitely still most of the subtext is still intact for the movie, is the scene where he goes to ask Yoda for advice because Obi-Wan's been sent away.
Yeah. And Yoda is like the, you know, like what does he say exactly? He's like, cast away everything you hold dear or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, you must not fear, like whatever. You have to let go of your fear of losing all that, whatever. I don't remember what he says, but it's like, it's just the same shit he's been telling Anakin since the Phantom Menace, and it's like, this is not useful advice. He's like, Anakin's basically coming to him, and I don't think the dialogue necessarily reflects this in the film, but in the book, it's like Anakin's almost admitting to him everything that's going on, and it's like, I'm in this situation now. I know I wasn't supposed to get in this situation. It makes me a bad Jedi that I'm in this situation, but I'm in this situation now. What do I do? I'm deathly afraid of like losing all these things that I shouldn't really be attached to. And Yoda just parrots to him the same
tired
Jedi stuff that he's been hearing literally since the Phantom Menace. And it's like, okay, great. I know what I was supposed to do, but I'm in this situation now. And it's just it is like the final thing that drives Anakin to despair almost about this whole situation.
Yeah.
It's when he realizes that like the Jedi can't really help him with what he needs them to help him with.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's obviously, to get Anakin to turn against the Jedi, Palpatine has to do two things. He has to undermine Anakin's faith in the Jedi, and then he has to present himself and Sith teachings in general as the solution to that problem in a way that won't compromise Anakin's purported principles, which, again, Anakin's been groomed by Palpatine since the Phantom Menace, which is a total of 13 years at this point. So he doesn't stand a whole lot of a chance. Because he's desperate for a father figure, and Palpatine steps into that role.
Yeah. Well, and Obi-Wan deliberately avoids that role.
Specifically shuns it and just like tries to put himself in an older brother type of role, whereas Anakin needed somebody to take a little bit more charge. I do think in some ways it almost would have been better if Obi-Wan and Anakin had just been like Jedi comrades in the ranks together and somebody else had been Anakin's Jedi master. That is kind of a feeling I got on this watch. I was like, maybe Obi-Wan wasn't the best call. Maybe Mr. Perfect Jedi wasn't necessarily the best pick for the troubled young, fearful Anakin.
I did
chip on his shoulder Anakin.
I did appreciate though that in Attack of the Clones, the Council's actually kind of the one more supportive of Anakin. Yeah, well they in this one they've switched and it's Obi-Wan being the supportive.
They're back to Phantom Menace.
Yeah, they're back to the status quo.
Yeah, so I know that's another thing that like, okay, so another important part of getting Anakin to turn is to convince him that there's this plot to overthrow the Republic by the Jedi. And that the Jedi fear losing their power that they've gotten from, being generals in the army during the Clone Wars. So they want to overthrow the government and take control of it. So that's going to be a tall task. I think a pretty big ask to convince him of that. And I don't think he so much succeeds on that as he gets Anakin so delusional to the point where he has to convince himself of it in order to justify his own turn.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Palpatine ever actually fully convinces him of that. He only ever convinces him that Anakin needs his help to keep Padme alive.
Yeah. Totally. I completely agree.
Which again, if you think that this movie is taking place over the course of 3 days, seems incredibly abrupt and ridiculous. Knowing that it's over the course of a few weeks and he is not sleeping the whole time makes it a little bit more I get how this guy's logical reasoning skills are not at an all-time high. In addition to, here's the thing, the movie does not make as big a deal about how Anakin just kind of like mercilessly kills Dooku, but he thinks that's what's going to get him kicked out of the Jedi Order more so than being married to Padme, or at least the same amount. He's worried about them the same amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what when he is talking to Padme about how he isn't the Jedi he should be. In the novelization, it's more clear that he's talking about when he, like, the cold feeling he felt, the cold, emotionless feeling he felt when he killed Dooku. There's also, like, this interplay between, like, he calls, like, this inner voice inside of him that's, like, all of his fears and anxieties. He calls it, like, the dragon. It's really interesting, this, like, dialogue Anakin has with himself throughout the book. And it's, like, it is, like, an outside voice. It might supposed to be a pretty obvious, like, Palpatine's manipulation is, I don't know. You should read the book and let me know what you think about that.
Yeah, it's on my list.
I should let you talk about the movie for a little bit.
One of the things the movie does really smartly with its visual language is it constantly shows Anakin half in shadow.
Yeah.
Which is just like, it's classic visual metaphor. It's exactly what's happening. He's torn between two worlds the entire time. And, either one really could win out.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on who gives him the support he needs, and that just happens to be Palpatine and not anyone else.
Right. I think if Obi-Wan had been there, it would have been better as well. Like, I think Obi-Wan just, like, actually being available to help Anakin, because, like, he knows everything that's going on with Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
He's known the whole time.
Yeah.
There's a cut scene that, like, he has a much longer talk with Padme, and he says as much. Like, he's always known about their situationship.
Yeah, their marriage that they have to hide from everyone.
Obi-Wan is being sent to hunt Grievous in Utapau.
Which is a cool sequence, but yeah, like, even if Anakin had gone with him,
It's kind of incredible how well this movie manages to balance the action in the narrative. Like, there's basically action happening from the big, like, from the time the movie starts until the time the movie ends.
Yeah.
But it's all in service of the narrative. Like, it's really incredible how they managed to do that. And the pacing doesn't feel like insane. It is actually insane when you like stop to deconstruct it, but it does not feel like, for example, it doesn't feel as fast paced as the Phantom Menace, in my opinion.
No, it
But it
definitely
is,
feels.
but it still is very much like moving things
It
along quite
feels. It feels.
fast.
It felt right in between Phantom and Attack of the Clones for me. It was
Yeah,
not quite
but
as
like
slow as Attack of the Clones, but not quite as fast as Phantom Menace.
there's like an A, B, and a C plot. The A plot is Anakin, the B plot is Obi-Wan, and the C plot is basically the rest of the Jedi Council, either Mace Windu or Yoda, basically. Uh, at every point of the movie, action is happening, like a literal actual fight, a war, some kind of battle is happening in one of those plots at all points of the film.
Yeah.
Which, like, especially when you're a kid, that's what you want. You don't want a whole lot of, you don't want, the third movie in a trilogy, the one where Anakin becomes Darth Vader, to be all talking. Even though, technically that is how most of the plot is actually accomplished, is by Palpatine and Anakin talking, and then Anakin talking to the council. But kids want to see fights,
Yeah.
and there's lots of good fights in it.
Oh yeah.
Was my only point.
I mean, there's a lot of really good fights in it. I mean, every because Phantom really kind of relied on that last Maul fight in terms of like just a good
There's very
Jedi
small
battle.
action sequences interspersed, but the big set piece is definitely the fight with Maul. But there's like 3 or 4 big set piece fights in Revenge of the Sith, I'll say.
Yeah, and they're all fun to watch. They're all well choreographed and well filmed.
Yeah.
Um, and there's like the actors give the right emotion, et cetera, et cetera. I completely agree with you. It's action forward, but it serves the narrative insanely well for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So my next note is really just style points for Obi-Wan, because when he's on Utapau and confronts General Grievous, I love how he like drops whatever that thing is. He drops onto a bunch of droids, and then the Magna Guard that like barely avoids it, he just casually like slices its head off.
Yeah, it's pretty crisp and clean.
It's a very crisp slice. It's very cool. And then that whole rest of the chase sequence and all that is pretty well done too.
Yeah. And then the fucking brutal murder of Grievous.
Mm-hmm. That
Not
was
murder, but
that was something I had forgotten
cold-blooded.
about since the last time I'd seen it. That Grievous had like a beating heart.
He just melts that fool. There's a there's a cut sequence that's even longer of him like ripping the heart out, throwing it on the ground, and then blasting it. and then Grievous doesn't actually die until the heart gets like engulfed in flames and shit. And it's like, okay, he would have happened when you ripped the heart out, but that's fine. Anyway, it's a good thing that scene's not in the film, and we have the scene that's actually in the film. But it's very funny.
Yeah.
I'll try to send it to you if I can remember where to find it.
That's really funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's
So right before they send Obi-Wan to find General Grievous, he has this chat with Anakin about how the council wants him to spy on the Chancellor. And I think the way so this is, I think, is where we get Anakin's like, within the text of the film, this is where we get Anakin's like first big seed of distrust for the council, is them asking him to do this pretty shady thing, spy on the Chancellor, after the Chancellor had already like strong-armed Anakin onto the council, but whatever. And it's Obi-Wan that's asking him to do this, his friend. And Obi-Wan makes it very clear that he does not want to be asking Anakin to do this.
yeah.
Oh god, there's also a line, I wish I had put it in my notes a little bit clearer, but there's a line that Obi-Wan says where Obi-Wan is almost saying it in a way like where he's like giving Anakin an out, like, yeah, you don't have to do this because I don't want to be asking you to do this. I'll try to find it to clear it up, but it's like, it is kind of interesting how like Obi-Wan almost kind of is like throwing the council under the bus for this idea that he does not like.
Yeah.
And it's helping undermine Anakin's faith in the council.
Yeah, I definitely got like some of that vibe from that conversation.
And this is what Palpatine is exploiting, really. Now, all that being said, I think a lot of people use this as an avenue to say that the Jedi weren't the good guys. It's their fault somehow that Anakin fell. And there's a lot of ways that they failed him personally as a person. But like the Jedi are not bad guys. And I can't really fully trust anyone who believes that that is first of all what's being offered textually in the film, or just like generally they think that's true.
Yeah, no, I mean the Jedi are very clearly the good guys in the story.
Yeah.
But I also do agree that like yeah, they made some wrong decisions that definitely contributed to this fall.
I think they failed Anakin on a personal level. I don't think their entire personal philosophy on life necessarily is like responsible for that failing. I just think he was personally failed on a lot of levels by people.
Yeah, oh yeah, big time. That's I mean a lot of my notes on both Attack of the Clones and Return of the Revenge of the Sith
Yeah.
are related to just how he's being personally shafted by basically everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan a little bit in Attack of the Clones, but not that much.
Okay, so Palpatine leverages Anakin to join the council, and Anakin gets pissed because they're not making him a master.
They're letting him sit on the council, but they're not giving him the rank, which is apparently unheard of.
Too well, except for the fact that I'm pretty sure, and I may have the exact person wrong, but there is a member of the council that is just a knight. I think it's Kai Adi Mundi, but I don't know if that's 100% accurate. There is a member of the council, though, that is not a Jedi Master.
Okay.
And if it's Kai Adi Mundi also has the distinction of being another Jedi with children.
Interesting.
Because his race have a repopulation issue, so he got like special dispensation to have kids from the council. So there's like a lot of in the lore. It's not presented at all in the movie, because in the movie we basically have to take Anakin at his word that that's never happened before.
Yeah.
You know, because Obi-Wan doesn't correct him or anything, so we have to assume it's true. But I'm just saying, in the lore, that's not technically a true statement. Anyway, but the big thing there is that he has done enough in the Clone Wars to be deserving of having taken the trials and become a master. That's kind of his argument. That's not really presented that way. It's always presented in the context of him being on the council. But it's really part of a series of behavior where Anakin believes he's earned the promotion that the Jedi Council's just not giving him. You know, this isn't the original issue. He's just no he's this is the straw that broke the camel's back as far as that specific complaint is concerned on Anakin's front. Shit.
Going back slightly to
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
um to the Grievous fight on Utapau. I did appreciate how the choreographer, or I mean like whoever was in charge of planning all the fight scenes basically made it very clear that Obi-Wan's style has changed in between the two movies, going from like not Obi I was going to say Obi-Wan again, Qui-Gon Jinn's like relatively simple style to a more to that like overhead thrust thing with his hand out that he does.
So you're talking about lightsaber
Yeah,
form.
yeah.
Yes. So to put fandom jargon into your explanation there, in Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan is supposedly, and we will have talked about this, he's emulating Qui-Gon's fighting style, which I think is first form. I'm really hoping Wikipedia comes through for me on this.
Like I know some of the forms' names,
Yeah, I
like
know.
Sheen or Sheen or
Anyway, I believe Qui-Gon Jinn was a Form 1 guy, and in Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan is trying to emulate Qui-Gon. We will have talked about this, I think, in a lot of ways, not just in saber fighting style, to his own detriment. And instead, in this one, he is now a master of Form 2 Soresu,
okay.
which is a highly defensive fighting style. And he is not just a master, he is like the quintessential master of this form.
That was one of the things I was remarking on around the halfway mark was there's a lot of stuff that it really trusts the viewer to figure it out.
Yeah, they don't. This is one of those things where it's like, are these movies actually just really good, or have all movies become complete dog shit since this movie came out in the last intervening 20 years? And I do think it's a little of both.
Little column A, little column B for sure.
Yeah. When Obi-Wan and Anakin are taking the space bus from their Star Cruiser crash, uh, the Millennium Falcon is actually landing on the platform
Oh, I
underneath them.
straight up
Fun
didn't
fact.
notice.
Yeah. Well, a Corellian YT, I don't know, 1300 cruiser is landing
Okay.
on the platform below them. We don't know for sure that it's Millennium Falcon. Other than I would assume the CG model is the same as the one used for the Falcon. All right. Do you want to go over some of your notes? Because I feel like I have been very much
up next,
talking ad nauseum.
Up next, it's more of just a commentary on the actor, and the character, I guess, a little bit. Jimmy Smits is pretty good, and he's underutilized. He played Bail Organa.
Ah, yes. Yeah, he could have been in it more, but I do like he's great connective tissue.
Yeah,
because he is doing stuff.
Yeah,
I have a pet headcanon about what's going on with Bail Organa in this film.
Hit me.
And why he's showing up at a bunch of places. I think he and his wife had there's probably a lore canon explanation for this that completely contradicts what I'm saying, but I don't care. I like it as a theory. I suspect he and his wife had a child that was force sensitive that like then was taken in by the Jedi.
Oh, that makes sense.
And that's why he just like he's always like very pro Jedi. He like shows up at the temple completely like just not on a whim, but because he saw some shit was going down. He's the only guy who showed up, despite it, like even Padme didn't go, even though like that's where her husband works and it's on fire, and she like is known for getting herself into troublesome situations. Obviously not while she was pregnant, but it wouldn't shock me.
Well, and there's the scene where the youngling goes to like defend him, and just gets gunned down.
That's George Lucas's son, by the way.
Oh, really? Interesting. Ooh.
Well, but then also like he's very eager to like take Leia in as well.
Yeah,
it's like my other half of
it's
that.
Like we've been thinking about adopting a daughter
at the behest of the Jedi, who say they split them up, which by the way is insane.
Yep.
Well, anyway, split them up. I mean, there is some logic there in that like they are easier to sense with the Force. They're easier to detect if they stick together, but I don't know. Still feels weird.
It was pretty weird
that they were just like, anyway, separate them now. Wild. Obi-Wan's fit is fucking crisp. Loving it. Loving the whole look.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the scoring is borderline horror movie-esque, which, like, okay, the music is obviously very important to Star Wars because it's a space opera.
Yeah.
But I like to talk about themes and shite when I'm talking film.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be challenging in Star Wars because so much of it is like, so much of the prequels at least is like pondering scenes while a theme plays in the background. Like that's how themes are largely developed in these prequel films, which is not quite as satisfying for me to talk about because a lot of the time it's not something that's like very present immediately out in the open in these scenes or in these films, I should say.
Yeah.
Most of the way themes are developed is through music. That's the more succinct version of my point if you wanted to cut around all the bullshit.
Yeah. The music definitely operates as a general sort of motif that then calls into that calls the themes up.
Well, yes. But in some ways it's the only development of themes that we get because again, we don't hear people's internal monologue.
Yeah.
And that I think is where the main battle of the film is taking place, is in Anakin's conscious and subconscious mind. I can't believe when Obi-Wan dropped in on General Grievous, he didn't fucking clock the big wheel.
Yeah.
Just post it up in the corner as a getaway vehicle. That's crazy. Oh, this is a point I think I started to try to make a while ago and then failed several times. When they're sending Obi-Wan to go get Grievous, this is to violate Palpatine's suggestion that Anakin go get Grievous. But when Anakin is like talking to Obi-Wan about it, he wants to go, but clearly not in place of Obi-Wan. He wants to go with Obi-Wan. Like he is just in such a bad place. He's in such a bad headspace. He's just so desperate for one last classic Obi-Wan and Anakin adventure, and he is denied even this.
Yep. Because like we said earlier, he's reaching out for any sort of companionship.
There are many scenes where it's like he's clearly like it's his cry for help scene with a lot of characters.
Yeah.
He has one with Yoda where Yoda just parrots the exact same worthless advice Anakin has been getting since he was 9. He has one with Mace where he tells Mace that Palpatine is
didn't realize it.
Sidious and is a Sith
Yeah.
Lord. And I do think Mace could have done better, but he also I do think he does genuinely trust Anakin at that
Yeah.
point.
Well,
Anakin certainly doesn't feel that way
his
because Mace leaves him behind.
Mace
But
also says, "If what you say is true, I will trust you."
yeah, but I think he already does
Like,
trust
yeah,
him.
that's definitely like probable.
Mace
Yeah.
is just like kind of an aloof person
Yeah.
in general.
Just
from
kind of
Anakin.
a dickish way of putting it.
Maybe. I don't know. I think saying that Mace Windu is dickish is a little bit harsh because he is kind of ultimately proven right.
Yeah.
But
I just had a note about
Go on.
that section though that I
Please
was
do.
like my theory is that if Mace was like, all right, you're coming with us to arrest him, there might have been an entirely different.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think about that sometimes, but I'm not fully convinced of that. But I am sympathetic to that thought.
Yeah.
I've had it many a time myself. I don't think I'm fully convinced by it. But yeah, I do see where you're coming from.
Well, so my next two notes are on that. My next two notes are on that scene.
Yeah. This is the big confrontation
Yeah.
with Palpatine, where Mace Windu shows up with 3 other Jedi masters to arrest him.
Yes. So note one is the makeup and the VFX that basically let you witness the change to Sidious in real time as he's getting blasted in the face by lightning, his own lightning. It's like it's pretty surprisingly good, and the flashing of the lightning I think helps kind of cover up any possible mistakes. And then the other note I have on that scene is right before he gets blasted with his own lightning, says like no, you will die, or whatever he says, and his face is fucking hilarious.
No, you will die.
The way he like,
yeah, which I always,
it's so funny. That's it. I have not much else to add on that one.
The way it scrunches up. Anyway, I always thought he said no, you have lost, but he said you will die, which is like interesting. Doesn't matter. It's not important, but I just always heard that line differently. Okay, something about the supposed plot by the Jedi to usurp power falls flat, even though there is textual evidence that could have convinced Anakin. A couple conversations that he could have been a part of to make it more believable that Anakin would fall for it. So, from Anakin's perspective, from what we see of Anakin, I think it's pretty thin, and this is why I came up with another rationale that I rambled through a few minutes ago, but it's pretty thin from Anakin's point of view, this idea that the Jedi are plotting to overthrow the Chancellor. However, there is a conversation that Obi-Wan, Mace, and Yoda have together that if Anakin had been present, I think he would have been more susceptible to that plot, because they talk about removing him from power, and they talk about how the Jedi would have to take direct control of the Senate. And Yoda says something like, "Oh, a dark path."
Yeah, I remember.
If Anakin had been present for that talk, I think he might have been more. Within the text of the film, I think it would have made more sense of his like believing this plot existed. But again, I think Palpatine engineers the circumstances in which Anakin has to convince himself of that in order to justify his own actions.
Well, and then that would also make it easier for him to justify killing Dooku,
all the younglings and whatnot.
Dooku, Dooku and the Tusken Raiders as well.
I do think the Tusken Raiders thing has a lot to do with this film, even though it's in Attack of the Clones. There's a lot of ways that scene is relevant to this film. For one thing, Palpatine directly references it after revealing. Is it after he was? Yes, it's after he reveals he was a Sith Lord. As like he's now fully tripping Anakin out. So he mentions Palpatine, or he mentions knowing that Anakin's married. He mentions knowing that it's Padme, and he mentions the Sand People all in one scene.
Well, right at the beginning, to convince him to kill Dooku.
Oh no, you're right.
He says it's just like with your mother. You wanted revenge. You lost your hand.
But yeah, it's with Dooku. Right. Yes. Okay. My bad. I thought that was later in the conversation where he's like, "Yeah, I'm a Sith Lord, and I can save your wife from certain death. I can save Padme, etc." I thought it was during that scene, but yeah, you're right. It's right after he kills Dooku.
I mean, we briefly touched on it, but one of my notes is how I'm rather surprised that a PG-13 movie gets away with implying its main character killed like a dozen kids, and
Yeah,
then
pretty
also
wild.
gets away with having a kid literally die on screen in front of Organa, George
George
Lucas's
Lucas's
son,
son,
no
no less.
less.
Yeah, but that's like an American thing. Violence is no big deal, but anything
Yeah,
sexual is strictly censored. It's also crazy because that kid that like stands up and is like, "Oh, Master Skywalker, what are we gonna do?" looks very
yeah, it
much
looks
like
a lot
Anakin as
like
a
Jake
child, and I
Lloyd.
have to
Yeah,
think that was an intentional choice. In a way that scene is
yeah,
symbolic for demonstrating the death of Anakin's inner child and like his innocence, and even specifically the little boy who wanted nothing more than to be a Jedi. Now he's an enemy of the Jedi. I think it's wild that Padme didn't give a fuck about Anakin killing those kids in Attack of the Clones, but now she's very
yeah.
concerned about him killing kids in this
The
one.
whole reaction to when he comes back and he tells her about the slaughter of the
I think part of it might be her just like not trying to, which it would be odd for Padme anyway, but she's like not really trying to speak up about a culture that she's not a
yeah
part of, you know? I think she takes the Tatooinians at face value when they say things like, "Oh, the Sand People aren't people; they're monsters, they're animals, they're whatever." She may know better personally, but she doesn't really know the like
yeah.
history between the people of Tatooine and the Sand People. Like she doesn't know about all the beef, so maybe she just takes them a little bit too much at their word about that, and that's why she doesn't care. But it does still strike
It's
me as
pretty
odd.
wild. Yeah,
So good. Yeah, that fight rules. The choreography is amazing. One thing that is kind of odd about the choreography of the film and like that fight is so much more fast paced than every other fight in the film. It could give a guy the wrong idea about like who's the really powerful like
yeah,
characters, because the Palpatine Yoda fight is way more lackluster than the Anakin Obi-Wan fight. And even the like Mace Windu Palpatine fight is like the Obi-Wan Anakin fight still looks more hardcore than that one even. So if you're just going off of coolest fight, you would be forgiven for thinking that Anakin and Obi-Wan were the real heavy hitters.
there's the moment where they both lose their lightsabers and just start kicking each other.
Kicking the
Yeah,
Christ out of each other. Yeah, that shit rules. One almost wonders there is so much hypocrisy between what characters say to each other, how the characters then act, and then how the different thing these characters say to different people in different scenes. There's a lot of hypocrisy in this film, just like from scene to scene, from conversation to conversation, from action to action. And one almost wonders if that's an intentional thing, like he's trying to set the tone that like the final days of the Republic were generally filled with a lot of hypocrisy. So my examples here are there's a lot of people accusing other people of being arrogant. Palpatine accuses the Jedi of being arrogant. The Jedi accuse Palpatine of being arrogant. Meanwhile, all of them are displaying an awful lot of
yep,
arrogance, in different contexts. So like it's not as subtle as Yoda says, "Oh, whatever, the Chancellor's getting arrogant, thinking he can appoint people to the council," while he's in the middle of doing something arrogant. But like Yoda will say, "Oh, Palpatine's overstepping his bounds by trying to appoint someone to the council," and then he'll have a scene where he's talking to Anakin and is giving him the worst
yeah.
advice of all time. Everyone is condemning Anakin's like fear of losing stuff and like, "Oh, you shouldn't be afraid of stuff. Duh, you're a Jedi."
Yep,
Useless advice, by the way. But they're condemning Anakin's fear because they're
yep.
afraid of Anakin. Like
Hypocrisy.
that's insanely hypocritical. The Jedi tried to usurp the Republic, so we should overthrow the Republic and make an empire. Like just every single like interpersonal drama in this film resolves into complete hypocrisy when you just like go down the line. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Returning, circling back to the Duel of Fate scene. Specifically the bits where it's
Yeah.
interspersed with Yoda fighting Sidious. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
was a little upset that Yoda only gets like two battles. Um,
Yes.
and he does good in the against Dooku, but this one he just gets destroyed.
Oh, I don't think so. I
He
think he
starts
starts
very
very
strong,
strong.
but he loses steam.
I think it's close right up until the very end when he gets
Yeah,
fucking
that's
launched.
fair.
But I also think he like really gave up too early. I think he could have fucking stayed and duked that out as well. Like he was not.
Not
I
like
think maybe he
actively.
felt like he was on the back foot, but he was not
Yeah, he wasn't
really losing
actively
that fight
losing. I
up
think he
until
just
that point.
decided that like
Yeah,
maybe
I don't know.
maybe he really did not have the power to do it, but he could have held out. But
Well, maybe he realized that like when they get down to it, the security hologram is gonna have him killing the Chancellor. I think maybe he realized
to
there was
look
no way
good,
to
yeah,
defeat Palpatine without killing him, and he had a recognition that it wasn't gonna look good if he
yeah.
killed Palpatine. Yeah, I don't know. It really doesn't feel like Yoda is losing that fight until he decides to leave, in my opinion. I don't know if you were
I
making a
was
different point there.
I interpreted a little bit more of a loss on his end, but I mean you're not wrong.
Okay.
I think you know
I say see if you can find a cut that doesn't have them intercutting between the relatively slow like lightsaber play between Palpatine and
and
Yoda,
the
and the two boys just fucking whipping
yeah
those sabers at each other. Try to find a cut that's just the Yoda fight,
I'd
and I
be
think you'll
like
see my side of
really
things.
surprised if there wasn't a blooper where like Hayden accidentally like hit like Obi-Wan's finger or something like that,
Oh, I
and
mean,
just
all the time,
like there being like a big
all
old like
kinds of
out
them.
fuck moment. I
Mm-hmm.
do like how it deals with like the ideas of predestination and fatalism, where Anakin being afraid of her dying is what ended up causing her to die.
I think that's like, yeah, one of the most important things about portraying. I think that's how prophecies have to always play out in fictional media. I think that's the best way to do them. Like narratively, I think that makes the most sense. I think it makes for
Yeah,
better storytelling. I really
it
gel
was
with
it
that
was really
portrayal
effective.
of prophecy. It's always the
Yeah,
trying to avoid it that
I just
causes it to
I
happen.
the one complaint I had is the I didn't like the she lost the will to live line, even though it's like
That's a real thing that can
it's
happen,
well,
though.
and I put down in my note.
You literally
Well, yeah,
can
when
die
I
of a
put
broken
down
heart.
in my note that it's for pretty forgivable because it's also science fantasy.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
there
is
is
space
space
magic.
magic.
There is an alternative explanation one could choose if they're not
Yeah, I mean
convinced by
like
the lost the will to live line.
I mean
Finish
like
your thought though. Sorry.
maybe she died of like a brain hemorrhage or something like that because she was choked. I don't hate it. It was just a little bit of a disappointment, and specifically the line that the droid was like, "We don't know what's causing her to die. She lost the will to live." It was like a little. That was a
Yeah,
little clunky.
a lot of people say that. So fair enough, but that is a real thing that can happen to you. You can die of acute heart failure from
Oh yeah, I'm
having your
not
heart broken.
like debating that. Yeah,
Allegedly.
I could
Allegedly. I am not a
definitely
doctor.
imagine that happening.
It's very Frankenstein-esque how Vader hobbles off that platform.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I really stuttered my way through it the first time, so I just wanted a
um,
clean go of it.
my next note is just it would have been kind of cool to see just a shot of Force Ghost Qui Gon because Yoda
Mm,
is like, I'm gonna teach you how to see how to communicate, but
don't think I'm. I don't think I'm with you on this one. I think that would have come across as kind of cheesy if we'd seen Liam Neeson standing there, fucking arms, hands on his
yeah, it could
hips,
have been
kind of
cheesy.
thing.
It really depends on how
Eh,
it's done, but yeah,
it
it's
doesn't work
fair.
for me. I don't think. I don't think there's a version of that I would have been happy with.
That's entirely fair.
I like how vague they left it personally.
And then the rest I have are just the general film notes overall.
I know my problem is I had, which we should do that next because I don't have a whole lot else besides it's absolutely fucked up that they split the twins up and then sent Luke to Tatooine, a
Yep,
known shit
yep.
planet with slavery. Um,
To go stay with Owen
yeah,
and
that's my
Baru.
last. Yeah, his last family. Fine, sure.
I mean,
Not
yeah,
Leia though.
yeah, not Leia.
The other arguably closer part of his family.
Yeah,
that Bail Organa just
I'll
unilaterally
take the
decided I'll
girl.
take
We've
the
been
girl.
meaning to adopt a girl.
Cool, man. Yeah. But anyway, it makes more sense with my headcanon that they gave up a
Yeah,
kid to the Jedi, and that's why he's so involved with the Jedi and
and
showed
also
up and
just
all
so
that
eager to
as well.
take another kid.
Yeah. Well, not like so. Let's not put it like that.
he's willing. He's very willing. I mean, the good news about sending him off to Tatooine, a shit planet with slavery and Tusken Raiders, is that like there is an implication that he is loved.
Mm,
Like New Hope,
I don't
New
know,
Hope
man.
kind of they kind of betray New Hope a
It's a
little
tough.
bit
It's
with
a
it, but
as we see in A New Hope.
it's
It's a
a
tough
yeah,
kind of love from Owen Lars. Owen, yeah,
Owen
well, that's his
Lars.
name, Owen Lars. For some reason, I thought his fucking name would be Owen Skywalker, but that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
I was thinking about it earlier today, going, I thought Lars was his brother, or not his brother, his dad. I don't remember his dad's name
No,
though.
I think the bad dialogue thing is overblown. It's not bad because it's stupid dialogue. It's bad because it's like way
Yeah,
too much for a person to say in one sentence. Usually,
it's a little it's fanciful dialogue.
it's very prose in a way that maybe doesn't necessarily work on screen. And I say that, and in the same breath, fully admit there is definitely some dialogue that feels
Mhm.
very awkward. I'm gonna give. Oh man, this is actually really tough for me because I do want to give it a 10 out of 10, but A New Hope is like the perfect film. So if any film deserves a 10 out of 10, it's A New Hope. I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's supposed to be like you're not supposed to feel good. I think that's what like a lot. I think people do this generally with a lot of media, but I think this is like people's gut reaction to this film, especially, is like you don't feel good at
Oh,
the
you
end of
feel
it.
pretty bad,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? You're not happy with Anakin's choices, like, and that doesn't make Anakin a bad or a poorly written character. And I think that gets conflated a lot. But the fact that I still, 20 years after this movie came out, started it up and was like, still some part of me was
Maybe
hoping, maybe
this
not
time,
this
yeah.
time. Maybe this time it'll go better. Maybe this time Anakin will make better
Yeah, it speaks
choices.
to the
The fact that I still feel that a little bit is like that is like
it
the
speaks
point
to
of the
the
movie,
efficacy of the
because
characters.
we already know how all of this. That's the whole point of the prequels, though. Is like we already know. There's no
Yeah.
surprise with anything that's going on in the prequels, which again is another reason I think a lot of people instinctively don't like them, is because they feel like, oh, it's bad that I already know all the answers. But in fact, it's not bad. It's good because you can feel different things. You can, knowing how the story is going to end, you can feel sorrow. You can feel grief for these characters that you know
Yeah.
aren't going to make it. All right, sorry, you got to rate
Um
it now as well.
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Whoa. All right, why is it taking the 1 point hit
Uh
from you? Gripes, your
my
gripes and your
gripes,
sour
my sour
grapes, old man.
grapes. Just the occasional bit of dialogue that didn't quite work for me, and
Like
uh
what? Besides absolutes.
besides absolutes, she lost the will to live. We talked about it. I just didn't quite like it.
Oh, sure.
Um, the CG that I mentioned earlier was not a huge deal.
You're just mad because they didn't put it in terms of Skibbity, Ohio, and instead we're speaking English.
It's still going to be
It's
the
fine, whatever.
highest score of the prequels for sure.